Meeting of the Health and Education Committee. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Health Department?
The November and December reports from the Health Department to present to you guys. It looks like right around our numbers kind of fell out as we predicted, because each month we kind of look at those and see the trends. And we see overall increase in both the sites, Murfreesboro and Smyrna. Some of that through WIC, some of that through those primary prevention projects that we do out in the community. And then we've seen some decreases because of staffing, FMLA, medical, doctor on retirement, and nurse practitioners. So we've seen a little bit of fluctuation, but kind of fell out where we would expect, looking at this every month.
Any questions?
Any particular outbreaks, influenza, respiratory?
Yeah, right now, during this current time, this is always a peak time when we start to see a lot more flu. Personally, at the health department, we haven't seen a ton with patients coming in, but we do get that reported in block numbers, and we're seeing an increase in that with flu right now from hospital reporting and doctor's office reporting.
Is the flu we're seeing one of the ones the vaccine was for, or is it a different strain?
It seems to be covering it. We're seeing a little bit from different strands, but there was some strands that were covered and some that weren't. But it seems to still be offering good coverage, at least right now. February will be our real telltale time. But right now it does seem to be offering good coverage.
Move to approve the November and December reports.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
You have the grant reports?
Yes, so the state of Tennessee has allotted us a $10,000 money that they want to give to us there's no matching funds, there's nothing. We just, as the health department, kind of have to write a plan on how we're going to improve physical activity in our community by using this money. Now, $10,000, if it was in our personal account, sounds like a lot of money, but when you're trying to improve physical activity for the population of our size, it's really just a drop in the bucket. So, of course, they recommend you try to partner with somebody else, that's doing a bigger project. And so we've been doing a lot of research, and we reached out to Jenna Stitzel. She's the coordinated school director for the county schools. I don't know if any of y'all have ever met her, but she's been real adamant in trying to get walking trails at a lot of the schools. And those, part of the deal with getting those, they're open to the community. So, we have these great schools in almost all of our communities. If we can get walking trails there, we know walking is a simple way. The kids can use it during the day, the teachers can use it, and then it's open to the community after hours. It cost about $20,000 to build one of those tracks. The partnership that she's been working, she worked with the Wellness Council. That's a group here in our community that works on wellness projects. They gave her a $2,000 grant to help build it. St. Thomas has given her some money. The one she's working on right now is a very high-need school, Smyrna Elementary. They have 45% of their children are overweight or obese. Walking track will serve as a simple and effective way for students to increase physical activity during the school day. 77% of these children are in free and reduced lunch programs. It seems like a good targeted area that needs more physical activity. So that's part of what we're working with on that plan, to use that $10,000 to kind of stretch it and make it have the biggest impact. So what I'll need to do, I guess, is to ask for you guys to send that, if you agree to budget, to have that be accepted into our monies.
Was this a grant that we applied for, or they just selected
No,
us?
they just decided across all the 95 counties, everybody would get $10,000. So all of them, and I can't remember where that funding came from exactly from the state, but it was decided that they would go into, and I don't know why it says grant on the top, but the that's the way they explained it to me, that it's just money. And I talked to Ms. Nolan about it, and she said, yes, there's no matching anything, and it's fine for us to accept it.
Any questions?
Well, it's nice to say to send 10,000 to county, but a county our size,
I
that's
know.
not much, but you go to a Trousdale or Moore or something county, and that's a huge part of their
Huge.
budget. And,
Yes, I
It would have
agree.
been nice if they put some sort of population factor or something like that in there. That would have taken away from some, given that.
Yes, sir. Well, when they did the tobacco money, that was calculated. When we got our tobacco money, we got one of the largest amounts of money because it was based on number of smokers and number of population that you have in. So we did get a large sum of that. So I like the way they did that, but I agree that that is kind of a small amount for us.
Brings up this statement for me.
Sure.
In building our schools, and this is strictly off the cuff now. Could we build a walking trail around the outside edge of the property?
Well, is it okay? Believe it or not, we have a lady who is with our school health in our office, and she's been getting grants. She's topped the $1 million mark in getting
That's Jenna,
grants.
right? That's who I've been working with.
And we've
Yeah.
been placing those walking trails around the schools, and they're usually, a quarter-mile long or whatever, and they're concrete.
200 meters.
And so the children love to use them to get out and do their exercise and things on. So we're trying that right now. Jenna Stetzel.
Yeah. And she did it all through grant dollars.
Now, we have a walking trail in the park, which would take care of at least 2 schools right there.
Yes.
So I'm trying to think about the schools and where we need the walking trails, where maybe the children, maybe even the teachers would like to take them out.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know
Right.
what's loud.
Yeah.
Thought.
Yes. Absolutely.
Mr. Sandy?
Just that position is, that and her assistant are 100% state funded.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Any more questions from Ms. Garrett? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
You give us a roll call? Mrs. Money?
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your support.
We've got the community care report. It's on your tablet. Is there anything of significance, Ms. Cook, Mayor, you want to contribute to the report?
Things are going good. Mr. Mayor, you want to say something?
I think that's
I think
A
it's
good
going
statement.
good.
I had someone in the community, she had a mother who's there, and she was just bragging about the trees that they do, and I guess they auction those off as a fundraiser or something. Just really created a sense of community there, so she was tickled about that.
We have Christmas trees they put up, and they silent bid, and there's 12 or 15 they have. They make a little bit of money on that.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the report.
second.
All in favor?
Yes.
All right, special projects? Welcome, Ms. Shelby.
I don't really have anything to point out, and if you have any questions, I tried to get the report to you a little earlier this time, so I had a chance to look at it. If you have any questions, I'm sure Jeff can answer them.
The John Coleman addition is 100% complete construction. And there's 500 unobligated, 544,000. Will that be transferred or?
We've got some final change orders and things that we're working through. As soon as that all gets back in, sometimes it takes a little bit of arguing to get those settled. So once those get settled, then I guess Mr. Sandvig will transfer that into another line wherever it needs to go.
There are a couple of issues we're discussing The playground equipment, we're not going to be able to, we're not sure it's worth moving to the new playground site, so we may be bringing forward an amendment. We're having some discussions.
So just.
But yes, what is unspent.
It's a good thing to see at this
Yes.
point, 100% to some
Yeah,
extent.
we should have some money,
Okay.
most of that available to transfer. Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the report that Roy Walter looks like it's a little in the hole.
Yeah.
Just a
But we-
little, yes.
We just got a $56,000 credit back, so that'll go away when we,
This was just showing at 1,300 down.
yeah.
Good, thank you.
Any more questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you.
That's about it for the
School board.
agenda.
We have a couple of things. All right, school board, come on.
I guess I'm saying this right. We don't have anything on the iPad except the agenda.
That's great.
Okay.
Everyone has one.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. This is our first meeting for 17, I think. So thank you. See everybody back. I'm going to try to stick close to script tonight. First item on our agenda is be a request for Rockville High School. But in kind of building that case, I've distributed you some documents, and I'll reference that very quickly to kind of let you take a look. The membership on this particular column was for yesterday, Rutherford County Schools, from our attendance system. MBR, looking at page 1 of this sheet. The membership is 43,836. You'll look at that, and that's K through 12. That does not include any preschool or anything like that. That's the straight ones we're funded from the state. This is the 5th month report, so the 26th of this month will end the 5th month for us, for state reports. So I have compared this number to the end of the 5th month last year. So in essence, you're saying year to year. So the next column, the 5th month, 15-16 was 42,649. So we've grown 1,187 students in 1 year. Basically, if you look at those numbers. So just point that out to you. It's 2.78% gain. If the state does the shared funds, if the legislature doesn't do anything with that for high growth systems, 2% is the threshold to receive some of those funds. So it looks like we may be above that. We do not know exactly until the legislature finishes what will happen for sure there. Just kind of looking quickly at the last column, the little arrows. This is a spreadsheet, and I have it programmed to point out any school that's 4% or higher growth for this year, based on last year's number and this year's number. There's 17 of those. Basically, the 2 alternative schools are in there, but I could kind of mark those out because they do fluctuate quite a bit. And you'd have 15 schools, but 15 schools is about a third of our 46 schools. So about a third of your schools saw 4% or higher growth. Point out something again that I've done in another meeting that we had earlier in the year to you. I'm also causing a spreadsheet at the bottom to kind of track growth. In our 3 grade areas that we take a look, we have the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. So if you take a look at that, so taking a look at that, the highest growth group is actually with 445 students so far this year's middle school. It's the highest rate because there's only 3 grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th in that. That's about 148 per grade for your middle schools. Of course, we're working on Rocky Fork Middle now to open, in the fall. Your second highest group, again, is your high school at 462. So with 4 grades in high school, you're looking at about 116 per grade there growth. So what we're seeing, and I've been showing you this, I think, since the start of the school year, we're still seeing high growth in middle and high school, much more than even the 6th grade that would be K through 5. So that's in the other column. And Eagle kind of stands out by itself. There's some mixture of middle and elementary and high in the Eagle. I just didn't try to break that one out. That's by school, so that's good information for you to take a look at if you'd like to take a look at it and track it for schools that are in your area. We noticed something else this time, so if you'll flip over to page 2, it's a little unusual this year. Caught my attention especially. This is the average daily membership report. Most of our funding that we receive from the state of Tennessee is ADM, membership funding. That's what batches. So the 4th month, upper left-hand corner, was 11/7 to 12/8/2016 for Christmas. So that 20-day school month, we submitted a request for 43,708 students. You know, I guess the thing that caught my attention this time especially, look how that compares to what we've seen now for today. You know, that's 128 students. Now, let me say something about the one for today. The one that I gave you today, it'll be a little bit less than that number because there are a few students that have a partial ADM, a medically fragile student, or maybe a high school student that's not staying the entire day, they'll get enough credits by staying a shorter period of time, but I have to sign every one of those. There's nowhere near 100 of those that I've signed. So it'll be a little bit less than that 43,000 that we're looking at if we hold this up again. I guess the thing that when I stop and think of this, we're still seeing growth despite the fact that, and I checked this yesterday, we had 38 students that, I'll use the term graduated, but completed their high school requirements at the end of the first semester. The majority of those would be in Holloway because of their 4x4 block system, but there are some at other high schools too, where the student, they may walk in the spring, but they no longer are in our enrollment. But a good thing and good information for you, last year the legislature, we requested, the superintendent's group and the school board associations requested that the legislature consider giving funding the remainder of the year for students that graduate early, because you've purchased books for them, you've put seats in place, you've done a lot of things like that. So they created a separate code for students that graduate. We put in their graduation date, use a special code. So hopefully, come the end of the year, we'll get a full year of funding on the early graduates. So that's a good thing that happened.
What about if a child quits school in the middle of the year?
That won't get you one.
Look in the desk.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, the thing, I guess, what caught my attention by the number being so great, despite the fact you have these graduates, and if you're going to have a student drop out of high school, very often that frustration level is highest over that Christmas break. You know, if they didn't earn a lot of credits that first semester. So any of those that dropped out would be in this also. They would have been removed by now at the end of January, and new ones in. So, you know, I just simply say this to you. We've got a bubble coming. And I go back to 2006 and 2007, and I want to give you some numbers, and you remember that, some of these kind of before the downturn. And the last time that I recall seeing this where we were growing during the school year or seeing a larger than expected growth during the school year was right during or start of that bubble period. And I don't have the crystal ball, but I can tell you it's very likely. And we're hearing that, newspaper and other things that are saying that to us. But in 2004-05, we grew 1,651 students. In 5-6, 1719. The largest was 2006 and 2007, 1863, and then 2007-08 was 1,074. And then the next year it got down to about bubble kind of burst and we dropped down to 800 and something students.
But we never went backwards.
No.
Even during the recession,
Never.
numbers never dropped, we're still growing.
Right. Rutherford County never has, but I'm just saying that the pattern I'm seeing now appears to be mimicking what we saw during that high growth period. So again, without the crystal ball, it looks like we may have another one of those bubbles coming. Another thing that's kind of interesting as you look at this page 2, sheet 2, if you kind of look at the number of seniors we have now at 3468, each of those columns is by grade level. That's this breakdown by school, by grade level. And you look back over at the 8th grade, we'll be graduating 3468, and our 8th grade that should become high school students will be 3827. So when you look at that, you're going to see an increase by itself, simply 300, possibly 359 more high school students next year, simply because of promotion, without any 2.78% growth. So that's something that you're kind of seeing. So when we talk about that, those 4 years from 2004-05 to 2007-08 that I named for you, Rutherford County added over 6,000 students in those 4 years. That's 2 or 3 times larger than some of the upper Cumberland districts that we had for their whole enrollment, you know. But that was unusual. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen again, but it sure piqued my attention to see growth during the school year. And I think it should pique your attention also, taking a look at that.
That's only to be expected in it if you drive this county and you see what's happening. I mean, that's one of the things I do. I drive all the time. In fact, yesterday I got a phone call from one of my constituents, and I was in my truck, and he called. He said, "I saw you go by." And I said, "You did?" He said, "Yeah, you're sort of like trash." He said, "You show up everywhere." And I didn't know to take that a compliment or not, but if you drive, and you drive within the area, I know out there in my area, the District 8, there are houses that are being built, what I used to call glades, and they're everywhere. And it doesn't surprise me with these numbers right here that the Christmas decrease didn't show this time,
Right.
because it's happening.
You know, and obviously my purpose tonight, because you have to answer to your constituents. We're asking you for funding. And you have to answer to your voters and constituents, but numbers are what they are. I mean, they don't tell the story, and I'm being as transparent as I can possibly be with you. So you need to have this information, so when someone asks you, you can respond, and that's why I'm doing this, you know, basically. Mr. Sandvik prepared page 3. When I kind of started this job, you told me a few years ago, don't bring us to high school any closer than 5 years apart. We finished the 4th year this year for Stewart's Creek High School, but if you look at Mr. Sandvik's totals, and again, I won't read all this to you, you can take a look at it yourself from Blackman Oak and Wrigley F. Siegel all the way down. Since 12-13 in these 4 years, we've grown 1,977 high school students. So you're growing 494 average, or about 500 students per year. If we have a bubble come along, that number may be higher. So anyway, I just want to point that out to you from real numbers that we're seeing now. Also, the other thing, just to point out to you once again, the high school enrollment is also growing faster percentage than the elementary. Don't know why Musper City is not going as fast on the elementary now. I asked Mr. Morgan, this is Shane Morgan, our planner. We at one time were able to go back and kind of look at birth records and make projections. He did that for us some early on. One of the problems we have now, St. Thomas or Rutherford, so many people in our county now may go to Williamson County, may go to Nashville and other areas. Those projection numbers, it's not as easy for us to take the burst and project out, you know, that many years ahead. I still think, and I've said this here before, I really think you're seeing a return of a lot of homeschool private students back into Rutherford County, starting in middle and high school. And there's several reasons. Colleges now require 2 years of a foreign language. It's difficult, and I'm not against the homeschool student. That's the best pupil-teacher ratio you can have if somebody can teach it. But to teach a foreign language sometime, or get physics and chemistry And those are, it's really hard. So I think we are seeing a return for that. And people are noticing what our students are doing, career and technical education. Governor's visiting Central Magnet tomorrow. Their average ACT this year is 29.1. It'll be the highest in the state. I haven't seen one higher. I think we're pretty firm on that too. So people notice that, and they're coming back into our school. That's good for business, but it also brings people in and it produces the growth. And so what we're looking at, it takes 2 years to build a high school. So if we do the same rate that we're growing, that 494 or about 500 per year, the 2 years it'll take to build it will be another 1,000 students on top of what we have in our high schools today. That the numbers you have on the first sheet you can see, or the second sheet either, you can see those numbers. So Mr. Morgan's working on attendance zone. When Rockville's built, there will be a domino effect simply because to try to balance it out. It's going to affect a whole lot of our high schools. Pretty much everything up here and all the way down to the Smyrna, possibly Laverne areas. We take a look at that. But he is looking at numbers now, somewhere between the 15 to 700 start. And if you'll look at Stewart's Creek, we started, what was that first number of the first year? 15 something?
It's just right at 1,600.
Right at 1,600 first year. So as best we can tell now, it'll be very similar to the same. And I'm not the school board or what they'll do, but very often because of athletics and nothing, we'll grandfather a little bit. So you tend to build as students go through with some of those seniors or juniors. So, but it should start easily, somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700, I would say. Just to kind of make the case a little further, thank you Daily News Journal. It came out on Monday. That's your sheet 4. I didn't expect this, but this is in the area. It says developers started this year off purchasing large tracts in Christiana and Rockvale, according to our Register of Deeds. And if you read Monday's paper, you saw this. It names a couple of there and the acreage and the price they paid for it. So again, these are new developments that we didn't necessarily see. That will obviously contain some high school, some elementary, and some middle students. So that growth is continuing. I guess the thing that I noticed here in this, reading this, that one of these is a California-based developer. The word is out evidently that Rutherford County is a place to come build. And for those of you, and some of you on this commission and all, or local developers at all, I do like the local developers because you tend to develop a little bit more slowly, spend a little more time on the housing and do it. But typically when we see outside developers, if I look back in 6, 7, when we saw those outside developers come in, it's very quickly build a house, turn the property over, and go get another one. So when you start seeing that, that also makes me believe the rate accelerates once again. So that's just from experience. So what we're asking, I think, for you, and it's on our plan, Mr. Carter, you want to kind of talk just a little bit about the Rockville High School now, based upon that, and where we are in design, bid phases, that sort of thing?
As you recall, the county commission purchased enough property at Rockville to build a middle school and a high school. And the Rockville pad is built and ready to go. We just have to get on it and start. Right now, we're in the process of the early design is finished. All the rooms are laid out. Now they're working on the drawings to try to get those ready. And those will be ready by probably early May. So we should have a full set of drawings, and that thing could go out to bid at that time. Rockville right now is experiencing some problems with traffic. We have had a traffic study done. We should get the results back from that on any time. We have an easement out the back of that property to Thompson Road, so we'll be able to ease some of that traffic situation with that. And we'll have to do different start times and those types of things to keep the traffic down a little bit on Highway 99. But if you recall, you have funded the design for this. So we're ready to go, we'll be ready to go when the time comes. And the construction of that would go from around May of this year to August of 2019. So it would open in 2019.
But you've already appropriated $1,962,000. It's that little blue box on the sheet there for the design, architects and design. You've already done that part.
So if you went out to bid in May, it'd take you 45 days to go through that process and award the bids or something like that, 30 to 60 or, you know what I mean?
A little less than 45 days is good.
And so that would put you actually starting construction. Of course, you got a head start. You've got the plan already there, so.
That's
So
right.
you ought to be able to build that school in 2 years without any problem.
Right.
Instead of squeezing one out.
Right, and that should drive the cost down a little bit on it, because just the time crunch is not there.
The utility stuff to the school, they gotta be pulled a significant way.
They're all right there on site. We do have a little glitch with the city. I'm trying to pull the sewer contract right now to look at it. They tell us that it's got to be annexed into the city to have sewer. Of course, we have sewer on the middle school, so I got to see if the contract says for 2 schools or
They
not.
changed their rules about a year
Right.
ago. Yeah.
Right.
About outside the city customers.
But if we had a previous contract with them, it said it supply service for 2 schools, and so we started working on that this afternoon, and we'll get an answer to that pretty quick.
Also mentioned to you, I think I may have said this at a prior meeting, we're working with, Mike Nunley came to us because EMS training, so one of the career and technical education programs in that would be some of that beginning EMS training that we can do through career and technical education. He even offered to put us an ambulance in there for them to practice in, but we're going to use a design, and what goes in the back of an ambulance, our architects design it, but we need plexiglass on one side so that the other kids can watch the ones that are in. There's not much room in an ambulance. So we're going to design that so that the kids outside, some will take their turns operating in that environment. But anyway, that's the kind of things we're trying to do, be a good citizen, and things that people can get a job, and those that kind of help us overall. So that's part of the plan and design for Rockville High School.
This is a 2-story building too.
Yes, sir.
Similar to
Similar to Stewart's Creek.
Very similar to
I think everything you'll see from us from now on basically will be the 2-story design, elementary and middle.
Right, we're looking at the plan to better.
Yes.
Did you have something maybe you would add?
Yeah, I want to ask one question. On this piece of paper we've got right here, Mr. Clark and Mr. Odom, dated 10/20/2016, I may have missed this completely. What we have on here, the Rocky Fork Elementary and the Siegel High addition, and we haven't funded either one of those yet. Where are we, where does that fit into this discussion?
You want to talk about it? Well, I tell you, we do this we prepared this for the board in November. And so we're working on this September and October. We looked again at the elementary numbers, and you saw that on the first sheet. And we're seeing the 250 or so, but we're seeing in middle and high over 800. So again, if we're looking at priority basis, we're looking at, we need to move on the high school first to handle it. Another reminder that I would make to the committee and the commission, this is a 2-year build out. So if you stop and take a look at your cost per year for your high school, you're very similar, Mayor, to that elementary cost, each of 2 years, unless you try to buy it all up front.
I was just wanting to know, are we going to have to come back? I mean, are we going to move the Rocky Fork Elementary past this high school construction, or is it going to be concurrent with it? How many dollars are we going to have in borrowing 2017?
When are we going to move forward on Rocky Fork?
That's a decision that our board will have to make, but they gave us direction that we need to first take a look at this high school to try to get it started by the numbers, so.
The board needs to look at that real quick because you get those numbers to, decisions to us because this involves money
I understand.
that we're gonna need. I think most of the board members are
I
here.
think they are.
With a shorter time frame in elementary school, and you come up in
It's a
6
year.
months, and you need the elementary school, also, we're funding them both at the exact same time.
Right.
And so,
And-
and the Siegel High edition is kind of pushed back, is it not?
Yes.
The numbers aren't growing there.
They are
you know,
not.
So,
They're not.
I'm taking for granted, I'm looking at board members here, that that's kind of getting
Yes.
held in the wings to some extent.
And if you'll notice on the sheet, the land and the site, part of the site work has been completed with the middle school, and we're in the process of doing design now. And that part has already been funded.
And you got some pad work also. that's
Yeah, we
been
got
done.
some pad work and
When you get to it, it'll be a little bit less than what we're seeing with the figure.
It would put us in a terrible bind to open a high school and elementary school at the exact same time. Because the schools are bad enough to pay for, but they're even worse to operate. The operating funds is what beats us over the head and stuff, and if we end up, and I think we want to avoid opening both those because that's the killer. You know, it's paying that many more teachers at once and everything.
To have an elementary school and a high school open in consecutive years, we're gonna have to build both at the same time during one of the years. So there'll be a lot of construction costs, but there'll be staggered opening
All
costs.
I'm saying, if we start the high school this year and we start the elementary school next year, they both open fall of 18.
Correct.
And then we've got the operation fund for both of them slamming us in the head at one time. And you know, I know that's been, the biggest problem I had with Stewart Creek wasn't building the school, it was the operational costs. Because we gotta pay all those teachers, all the, because that's recurring costs. You
Can I
can't stretch it
imagine-
over 20 years.
Kind of imagine when you opened Oakland Middle and Whitworth Buchanan the same year.
Mhm.
I mean, we have done that.
Yeah.
I
But it's
understand
been
what you're
tough
saying.
budget years.
I understand.
You know.
But are we caught with a situation where Stewart's Creek now is already beyond its numbers?
Getting close.
When we go over 2,000 much, that school is a little bit larger. You have a little bit more flexibility at your high school because you're separating kids out into classes. Career and technical education also has a ratio of 1 to 20, which is the same ratio as you have K through 3. So where middle school, basically, and let me summarize it real quickly. When you look at pupil teacher ratio under state requirements, K through 3 is 1 to 20, 4, 5, and 6 are 1 to 25, and then when you go up, you go to the 1 to 30. But your high schools overall will have a little lower pupil teacher ratio based upon the number of career and technical education classes. But you understand that you wouldn't want to run culinary arts with 35 kids and a knife, or maybe in a shop, you know. So those numbers are purposely held a little bit lower because it's hands-on. We did make a request of the legislature a few years ago and were shot down that there are some career and technical education classes, for instance, maybe criminal justice where they're studying in a book mostly, or some of the business that you could very well handle 1 to 30. But because the small school system's worrying about a lowering in their state funding, it was opposed by so many legislators we couldn't get it through. We actually proposed that legislation for Rutherford County back when I was in instruction, but we didn't get anywhere.
Back to the elementary school needs, I did happen to see the city council meeting the other night, and they were talking about they're purchasing property on Highway 96 and talking about opening another elementary school in like 18 or 19, I believe.
19 was the figure I heard.
And so would that not, every student they takes one, we don't have
I
to some
agree.
extent.
I
So
agree.
that could buy us another year on our elementary school, could it not?
It could. And the interesting thing, if you look at sheet 2 that I gave you, I pointed this out before, but if you look at sheet 2, you know, you look at our 5th grade numbers, you'll roughly see we jump when we get to the 6th grade about 500. They have a little over about 1,000 students per grade. In their K through 6th grades, they have about 8,500, so 1,200 or so per grade. We're getting roughly half of their students, and maybe a little more, in 6th grade, and then the other half come to us in 7th grade. So it shows pretty easily on that sheet where we have the grade breakdown. And that varies a little bit from year to year, Mr. Jordan. Sometimes we'll get more and sometimes we'll get a few less.
I just hope they carry out the plans
I agree.
and build their elementary.
I agree. They're a friend in there.
Our original discussion on this, though, we had looked at Rockville in 20, didn't we?
We did, but we didn't
now-
see these
But
numbers.
now the numbers have started coming and
Yeah.
catching up on us, and we've got the high school numbers here we've looked at. We're sort of caught in the position right now where we've got to do something as far as the high school is concerned. We've already got a pad sitting there. It's already ready to go.
Mayor, do you have something you want to?
I just had one follow-up question on this elementary school. At Browns Chapel Elementary, we have about 700 students. So we got a bit more capacity there. Will that have some effect on what you may want to do with Rocky Fork Middle, or where we may place some children that are going to be in the development area around Browns Chapel?
I think both. When we were riding around looking at properties, we actually rode to Brown's Chapel, and if you'll notice next door to that, the Beatties and all are developing, so there's a whole set of new houses that are already approved, stubbed out, some of them being built there, plus other developments at Parks planning closer down to the Shelton property and all. We did not get enough property when we purchased Brown's Chapel to add to it again. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's not going to be an option for us on an elementary, which is a reason why we were looking at another elementary further down 840, but that's another topic.
That's right.
So what's the capacity of Browns Chapel?
They have a lot of that 1 to 20, so once you get over about 1 to 800 or so, you start having to think portables and that sort of thing.
So about 800 plus up there about?
Somewhere in that
Okay.
particular range. And in fact, we build most elementaries for somewhere in that range, although we've got several now that are over that. But if you go to those schools, reminder, 143 portables still used in Rutherford County schools. So you pass them, you know what we're talking about.
While we're talking about, like out the city building a school, Murfreesboro building a school, we don't have the same situation in the north end. With Rocky Fork Elementary, if you've driven around also, you'll notice that right there on Allenville Road, across from the Belmont subdivision, near South Park, there have been 10 houses that are already dried in since Christmas. Those houses, 1 or 2 of them are good, and I would say will be on the market in the next 6 weeks. So at the rate they're putting up houses, I would say there'll be 30 or 40 houses that are sold between now and the end of the year. There's another subdivision right down at Amable Road, Rocky Fork, Amable Rocky Fork and Amable Road that's being worked on rapidly that would normally go to Stewart's Creek. There's not something else to go to. So that, looking at what's physically being built out there, there's also a subdivision that the city approved, of Smyrna approved, right in behind the Rocky Fork Elementary proposed location. They approved that like 2 weeks after you decide you're going to build it. I don't know exactly, I haven't seen any actual development on that, but it's been approved.
He knows about, when we started Rocky Fork Middle, we revived that building. So they saw the opportunity. So you're exactly right. They're
Yeah.
building right next door.
So I'm not
to Rocky Fork.
sure how long we're going to be seeing every day what's being, for a long time it was, okay, the plans are there, this has been approved. Now we're seeing physical structures going up and houses getting ready, very, very close, within a few weeks probably, of going on the market as sellable houses. So I think we're going to see a rapid increase, and that may be your bubble you're talking about.
I think when you see your supply catch up with your demand, we're gonna be back into some almost double-digit growth numbers at some point, all over the county.
The news article that I gave you, one of the concluding statements were builders reported 69 houses were completed from December the 30th to January 10th. That could be city and county too, but we're in that range of 60 plus per week, basically, now is what you're looking at.
Then Laverne is looking at, they hadn't passed the zoning on this yet, but right behind the post office, they're building approximately 300 condos. Then at Stones River Road and Hollandale, down in that area, they want to build 400. And that's in flood area, which I'm not for that. We had to buy some houses because of the
Mr.
flood.
Holliday mentioned that to the board last night in a work session, and Mr. Odom and I talked about it today. I think it was, or maybe Mr. Schaefer called me about it. And we do have some room on the Roy Walden campus that's left. You know, we just put an addition there, but we have some room that's left that another addition could go on that side if we needed it.
We also have that 37 acres over there at Laverne Lake that we could use too.
We have an addition for the middle school, Laverne Middle School, that's on this 5-year plan too. And it'd be a 2-story addition, basically what we look at there, because there's not a lot of property.
Right.
And we got a sinkhole right over there too, so I don't want to wash our children away, because it comes in fast and goes out fast. It goes to the river.
Well, one of the issues with that site, that property is left over, that big sinkhole up there that's between the two schools actually drains in the middle of that other acreage.
Oh, me.
That's where the water goes.
Okay.
And we walked that and looked at that several years ago when we were building the other elementary school there. And it was going to be very difficult to get anything on that side. It's so steep, so karst, and water was coming out in several places when we got a big rain and drained into that other big sinkhole.
If you want to see where the water stands in Laverne, just go around on a rainy day, because we got plenty of it. And we got honeycomb ground,
Right.
which is bad. So we have to really watch it.
So that's the main reason we looked at putting addition on the existing school, because there's room up there at the end that faces the baseball field that we could put a nice addition in there and gain several classrooms there.
Well, that's what I had said to someone else. I said, well, we've got land that we can add to. We don't have to buy land.
So if I understand our conversation at this point, it looks like you want to insert the Rockville High School above the Siegel addition. Are we
Yes.
also adding it above the Rocky Fork Elementary?
Yes,
Okay, so
ma'am.
it's going to the top
We
of the
are.
list.
That's our priority at this time. And the time frame is our issue, because if he's going to bid it and get it out, he really has to start by May or June for us to do it in 2 years, if you're going to move those students. So I know how long it takes to go through here, finance, all of the county commissions, borrowing cycles, all that sort of thing. So it's tough.
Would the Rocky Fork Elementary be delayed from its August 18th opening? That's the whole point.
We can't, we're not asking for it today to do that. Our priority, your board has reacted basically by sending us up here. They've looked at the numbers long before you're seeing the numbers, where something we thought we would need to go ahead and finish the two maybe right together, but all of a sudden you have this rapid growth in high schools. That's
Yeah,
what
but
we're seeing.
we're still not getting, I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but we're still not getting a commitment. We're not going back up here in 6 months, wanting to start Rocky Fork Elementary, and that would put them right back on the same track. But we got to start.
Well, you
the
have
high
a
school
choice to
quick.
approve that or not
Yeah.
when we come back, right?
We'll have the same argument all over again at that point in time.
Mayor, you have a question?
That's the point I want to make. We really need to know what you want to do with another school in this budgeting cycle that's coming up. We have to make projections. on when we're gonna borrow this money and how much, and how that's gonna impact
Rates are going
the
up.
overall budget. So if you want that to be borrowed at the same time, we need to know soon.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll just assume all you want is the money for the high school.
Well, but one of those things where if we build it, we're gonna fill it up,
Someday, but maybe it won't be next year, it might be 5 years from now.
or 3 years.
Well,
The
we-
city
we
builds
have-
the elementary school they want, that'll pull some kids out of that side of Browns Chapel, the kids from, you can cascade some kids back and forth, because one school connects to another, and it's not that far across there, so.
Stewartsboro is the number, we do have some border with Stewartsboro. It's kind of sits between Rocky Ford and Browns Chapel.
Madam
Where's that
Chairman?
city school?
Out Franklin Road. It's actually way out of town, it looked to me like, but I guess they're planning on annexing all the way out.
It's somewhere on those.
I've heard our discussion and what we're talking about, and I've sat here and what I'm looking at is we're talking about sending 1,500, 1,600 students to the Rockville High School. That's what we're talking
thinking.
about,
To start.
to start. That's 1,500, 1,600 students. I think we're all in agreement we're growing, and I think we've got to do something. And I think they're trying to tell us that the time is running out, and that's what we're doing tonight at this time right here. As I look at setting out here tonight, we've got individuals from out there in that area that are here tonight to see what we're doing. I've had people ask me, so how will this affect other schools in the area too? And I think you told us that. We even have the principal of Eagleville here tonight. I asked him to be here tonight myself due to the fact that I have spoke with him, and he's told me that it will not affect his school whatsoever.
He has
because
a
of what they're
waiting
doing.
list.
In
I
fact,
think
he
he
does.
still will.
He has a waiting list of people to come to his school, and he's at that magic number himself, if you'll look at this right here. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to make the motion that we go ahead with letting the bids for the Rockville High School.
So it'd be the 57 million that they would need finished out.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Can you give us a roll call? So we have a motion and a second to authorize the 57 million?
A little bit more discussion
Okay.
before we have a vote.
Please.
How is this vote going to affect what happens with, as Mayor Burgess brought up, the additional funding for an additional school? Does that mean that if we do this one, we're automatically going to do the other one? Or are we going to wait and make a decision on this one before we get some more information on finances so that we'll make a better, more informed decision? Until I get that additional information, I'm not willing to go forward with it. So I'm wanting what else is going to be coming when we go out to the market. It's going to affect our tax rate quite a bit. One other question, that looks like almost $59 million to build this high school and get in this high school. When we did Stewart's Creek, that was considerably less than that. Wasn't it like 54?
I didn't talk to you a little bit about
It
that.
was, yes, it was, but we've seen a huge jump in construction cost. And one of the main reasons for that is people are busy. And these larger contractors that are capable of doing a job like that, prices have just gone up. And that's why we want to get in the market early and get it out to bid so that they don't load up and then just start throwing numbers at it and don't care if they get work or not. We want to be early, so that's the main reason.
If you've gone up 1 or 2% a year between Stewart's Creek High, you're going to find yourself
Yeah.
at that number.
Yeah.
And has housing, building costs gone up 1 to 2% a year in Rutherford County?
Is there anything
I think so.
different about this proposed school than Stewart's Creek? Anything that would add cost to it? Are they identical in every way, or is there something different about it that's added
There's
cost?
Career and technical.
career and technical is a little bit different, and it doesn't have an agricultural program in it like Stewart Creek because the board had decided that they wanted to leave the agricultural stuff at Eagleville, so it didn't mess their program out there if they put a new program in there. Now, we have redesigned the entire CTE wing, and it is still less footage as Stewart Creek, but we learned some things at Stewart Creek in that we've cut a lot of the offices out that, are put in each individual room there. We've tried to utilize the space much better. And so it does have about 15,000 square feet less in the CT area than Stewart Creek does. But we're utilizing the space much better.
So Jeff's question, it's not a matter of design that you're anticipating it going up, it's a matter of cost of construction.
Cost of construction, yes, sir.
So if I get this right, unlike myself, Stewart's Creek, Pettis will have to keep his own pigs and chickens and won't be able to go back and visit the pigs and chickens at the school. That's just a little humor there. Probably most people don't get it.
Very little humor.
But one of the things that I would like to have seen tonight, I think it's been brought up several times, including myself. I mean, it's pretty obvious. We're going to need another school, elementary school out there. I think the board, I really would have liked for the board to have brought both these projects to us with when we need them, because right now you're saying I don't need it in August of 18, but when do we need it? I mean, if you're going to need it in August of 19, then we're going to be building two schools simultaneously. If we're going to need it in August 18, we're going to be building two schools simultaneously. But how much money are we going to have to be looking at, and thus how much the tax rate are we going to have to increase? Because it's going to require an increase in tax rate.
Let me remind you something that you have done for us, Commissioner, already. We opened John Coleman, that's additional space and rooms that you have funded that. We're making some additions to David Urey right now. It's Smyrna Middle too, but that's middle school. You just added to us an addition at Royal Waldron School. So when you look down in that area, you as a commission have supported some of that to help us cover. And we're seeing that you have added. We're also seeing that the numbers of elementary are not going as rapidly right now. And again, I keep telling you, 6 months or a year down the road, if a large development or something happens again, then we have to react.
There is large development going on right now in that area. So I think I'm telling the board members we need to really look at whether we're going to need this and whether, like Will said, we're going to come back here in 2 months and having the same discussion in May. Well, or April, this again, and so we've fragmented it and made a rule.
From what I understand,
One bite at a time.
Right, yeah. So,
from what I understand, the motion on the floor is only to address the funding of Rockville High School. And we have a motion and we have a second. Do you want to continue discussing just Rockville High School, or are we ready to vote on that?
Well, I think this discussion is right on, because the elementary school is part of this decision.
Okay.
Of course, we're beating up the messengers here. They aren't going out recruiting kids. They've got kids they've got to educate.
Totally.
And like it or not, we've either got to build schools or go start buying more property over the next few years, unless something major economy-wise, bubble burst or something like that. Now I don't see construction costs. I'm involved in that type of work, and it's going up until the bubble bursts again. And whenever the bubble bursts, everything will change, but it's just going to keep getting higher. So.
Let me ask Mayor Burgess a question. If we were to approve this and then the board come back in another 3 months and so we also want this other school, it creates tremendous heartburn on us that have to provide the financing. That's the reason that I'm saying I want a more clear picture as to what funds, not just for one school, but what funds you need when we are actually going to go to the market. When would we go to the market on this high school?
Well, our
Mayor
finance
Burgess?
director has joined us, so We'll ask Ms. Nolan to tell us.
Hey, Lisa, I didn't see you back there.
I just slipped in. So for us, work-wise and everything, the best time for us to go to market is September.
We would go to September this year
Potentially, I mean,
for a school that opens in 19.
well,
Bus
when you
up
have to,
and
when do
down.
we go? September we can go. Now, again, it's like the discussion, do we do half, do we do later? To me, we always kind of know in the back of the mind that's always the potential that we could do that, but sometimes the market conditions are right and we say we better go get it while they're getting good and go ahead and get it all. So, you know, and then what we've done before is until all the knowns are known, you know, we will borrow from ourselves to provide some interim financing. We do that quite a bit, you know, until, you know, we'll do about 10 or 15 million to get us, you know, some interim financing until y'all come up to the next school, and then it's like, okay, we got to go now.
But even if we borrow the money in the fall, Ms. Nolan has to know what we're going to borrow in the fall so we can project what our debt service needs are. And we can put this into the budget that we're going to prepare for the year beginning July the 1st of 2017. We got to do all that before June the 30th, so we sort of have to know where we're going in some detail.
Could you bring all that back to us in next meeting?
We'll meet with the board and see what their other priorities to do that, but I just urge you to go ahead with this high school, because if you want to break it over 2 years or whatever you need to do the funding. I do recall the mayor saying in an earlier meeting that we're paying off about 25 to 30 million per year of our debt service. What you're looking at there is about one of those years, so over 2 years for the high school would be within that range, would not raise the total debt limit, not from the school part, so.
Let me ask, if we spread it out over a couple of years, we did half of it this year and half of it in September of the following year. Let me think this through. And this may be a stupid question, but
Well,
August of 2018 or September of 2018, there'll be a new mayor and potentially a new county commission. Would they say we're not going to do it? Could they possibly say we're not going to do it?
I would not build, or, I mean,
Halfway through construction.
okay,
not
so
finished.
let me tell you this. So what we do, what we will
If they say
do,
we're not doing it, we're not going to the bond market?
no, what we will do is have authority already in place to issue the full amount.
Okay. So we
And
would.
now, then we could do it in two different times, but we'll get we will want you to authorize the full amount
So
of the project.
would be committed as a county?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me insert one more thing.
I said it was probably a
If-
dumb question. but-
If we go back to this bubble and we start seeing that 1,600 a year, or 1,700, or 1,500 a year, your one school a year will not do it. I hear it. I'm with you. I'm a taxpayer. I understand all of that. But what's going to happen if this bubble really happens? You're going to be back in that situation regardless again. What we saw in 6, 7 and that time. So I don't know how to avoid that.
Well, the high school is a 2,000 student school.
It
Where the
is.
elementary school
It
is an
is.
800 student school.
True.
So we're basically building 2 while we're building 1.
Right.
We're building capacity for 2,000 students. So it's a twofer. It costs twice as much or 3 times as much, but you're getting,
But we may need a third one. And
Yeah.
somewhere down the line, you're going to get hit for another.
personally, I'm gonna support this tonight, but I don't wanna see an elementary school in the next 7 or 8 months. Or longer, you know, I mean, I'm gonna tell you now, personally, unless something profound hits me, I'm not gonna be supporting an elementary school a few months down the road that would be timed to open the same as this. That would give me too much heartburn too. And if you're telling me this is the priority, I'm sorry.
No, I was interrupting you.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of segue into that. What I'm kind of hearing is we can anticipate an elementary school coming, and it could come in the next few months. And frankly, if we don't approve it in the next few months, they will open at the same time. We need to get another elementary school online.
Well, they're
So
saying
open
they're
in
all-
18, Well,
They're saying the priorities are Rockville High School, that's what they're asking for.
if we miss
And
this
that-
chance, though, we're going to open them both at the same time. You're correct.
Let's hold it just one second. Mr. Holliday has something he wanted to add.
I just wanted to say, from a board perspective of why do we send these things in the way that we do, and why do I put them on the 5-year plan in the way that I do? I speak only for myself, not for my fellow board members, because we would speak with a collective, but I'm looking at that middle and high school surge of students, and I'm characterizing that as a population growth characteristic. I'm sorry, as a growth characteristic as opposed to a population characteristic. Birth rate and things of that nature are driving my elementary students. And so if I'm looking at birth rate and that's affecting elementary as opposed to growth, I'm getting families moving into the area and I see that growth rate in middle and high school. Therefore, I've got to take Rockvale and get Rockvale High School online because growth in the area, jobs in the area, development in the area are bringing families with children in, and they're inserting in that middle and high school age situation. So that's why you see Rockvale. Now, fortunately, the County Commission has been very foresighted in order for us to have a pad-ready circumstance where we can go immediately, Rockvale High School, let's put it into place. Similarly, we see Rocky Fork Elementary that will be a pad-ready situation, and if we need to respond, then we will. Now, why is it out there? Because I can't be certain what Murfreesboro City Schools is going to do. So as Murfreesboro City Schools starts to talk about they're going to build another elementary, well, I can relax a little bit about my elementary perspective. But Rocky Fork Elementary is positioned correctly outside of the city's area and in that place where we know growth is going to impact us. There's no chance of the city's development impacting the need for an elementary school at Rocky Fork Elementary. Having the pad ready at Rocky Fork Elementary, excellent foresight. Where it gets positioned, it's going to be a reactionary kind of thing. But growth in Rutherford County, new families coming with children already school age is why we're seeing middle and high school and why Rockvale High School has jumped to the front of the line.
Aaron, nobody's questioning that. I'm not questioning that. What I'm questioning is what are our finances going to look like? I don't know if anybody on this committee and even on the full commission has said no to you guys in memory, okay? But what I'm saying is I want a more clear picture. Is this school, Rocky Fork Middle School, are you going to ask for the funding for this next month or months after that the same time? And I want to know that right now before I vote on this. I want to know what we will be financing this coming fall.
It's only Rocky Fork Elementary, not Rocky Fork Middle, because Rocky Fork Middle is under construction. But Rocky Fork Elementary,
I'm sorry,
that's okay.
Rocky Fork Elementary.
But the reason that matters is because I can't predict what Murfreesboro City Board or Council is going to fund. And so I have to be prepared to respond as if Murfreesboro City never built anything. So we have Rocky Fork Elementary ready, as if Murfreesboro City never built anything.
So the answer is yes. You're going to ask for that funding at the same time?
No, because Murfreesboro City is talking about building a school.
I don't think what Murfreesboro City does is going to affect Rocky Fork Elementary.
They'll cascade back.
It'll cascade a little bit, but not very much, because I look at these things. Browns Chapel, 4.3. Rock Springs, which is right next door to Rocky Fork Elementary, 6.6%.
Apartments.
Stewart's Creek Elementary, 4.7%. It's going to have to cascade a long ways. Get your calculator out, calculate the miles from Rocky Fork Elementary to anything out on Veterans that are 99, 96 that the city of Murfreesboro will build. It's not going to affect it.
You got to pull the kids from Blackman to Browns Chapel, from Browns Chapel to Stewart's Creek, and you got to cascade that. That way, there's kids in my neighborhood driving 11, 12 miles one way to school.
Yeah.
So you can definitely make some of that work. It's still students in debt.
But the growth that's going on right in that immediate area, I'll probably support this tonight, but we really need to know. Yes,
But
we
they
really
don't
need to
know until they know what the city of Murfreesboro does. Because if
I
they
don't
build
think
that
the city of
school,
Murfreesboro's gonna affect it.
I think it will. I think it'll buy us a year. They're gonna house 800 elementary
Some
students
other,
right
but
there.
it's not gonna affect that.
Which will put them both finishing at the same time, is what I'm concerned. We wait a year. I know it's not even on the table yet.
But let me just say this, I've got a concern about it, okay? And we've been on board with Rockvale High School for a couple of years now. All of us have been. The only concern that I've got is what else are we going to have to finance along the way? And it's not just the schools, okay? We've got jails we're going to have to be looking at, okay? You're not the only people that's wanting the slices of a pie that seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm just concerned that when it comes time to pay the piper, when we set our budget, then there's going to be a lot of commissioners says, what do you mean, a 35-cent tax increase? What do you mean a $1 tax increase? I'm not going to vote for that. And we've got to have a lot of support on the full commission to do this. Got to go to budget, and it's got to go to the full commission. And there are some commissioners out there that have said, I'll never vote for a tax increase. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to lay out on the table right here, right now. What are we looking at as it relates to where we're going to be come bond market time? So. I'm on board with Rockvale, don't get me wrong.
I know,
okay?
you asked for one on southeast part of the county. Yeah, I remember.
But I am concerned about what else is coming, and for you guys to say, I don't know, it bothers me a little bit. Just say, yeah, it's coming, and give us the opportunity to say, okay, let's figure it out, figure what we're going to do. But, to say, I don't know, bothers me a bit.
Let me just say that with the way growth is, it's very likely that the high school, building one school a year, particularly the high school, it's not, excuse me, is not going to take care of our needs. So, one school a year is just not going to fix us up, particularly with the bubble coming. There's many times we built 2 in a year. So I see a need for it, and I think it's coming. So for us to say, no, we don't need it, we'd be cutting our nose off by our face.
That's what I'm driving at.
Right.
Okay. But for us to say we don't know what we want,
Right.
bothers me. And I know that's not exactly what you're saying, but that's what I'm hearing.
Sounds that way.
That's what I'm hearing, okay? So it bothers me a little bit, and once again, I'd love for you guys to not have to worry about building schools and just concentrate on the academic side of the school system. It seems that you spend more of your time doing this type of stuff than actually doing what needs to be done in the classroom. And I applaud you guys for doing that. And the school board works long hours, and I know what you put into this. And just like what Aaron was saying a minute ago, I know what you guys are going through. But as a county commissioner, okay, our job is to fund what you need. And our job is to also answer to the taxpayers. And sometimes that's really, really difficult to do, because they send up and blast us when it comes time, don't raise taxes, don't raise taxes, don't raise taxes. And our question is, how can we avoid it? We have needs that have to be met, and it's our job to meet those. So once again, I'm on board with the high school. I'm just concerned with this, you call it a bubble, I don't know, bubble.
Well, any term you'd like. But, the state report card came out in December, so I'll remind you again. We spent $1,004 per pupil less than the state average. If we were just spending the state average per pupil, you would have to come up with $43 million more a year to operate schools just to spend the state average. What tax rate is that also? Folks, I can't sit here and promise you that some years you're gonna have to open 2 schools. I'm just trying to be honest and transparent, that's all. It's gonna happen.
I'm not disagreeing. If you look at this, I don't know, my math is maybe way too simple sometimes, but I'm looking at 3, 2, 4, 6, 9 schools in 6 years right here. So that's more than a school a year. I mean, counting John Coleman that just opened this year, these are 9 schools right here in a 6-year period of time. So that's more than one already that's on the table.
That's why I can't see building one a year and getting by without buying a bunch of portables, spending a lot of extra money, and not putting it into a permanent structure.
We're in a different position. We talked about Murfreesboro City, and we hope they'll move forward. They don't have to do anything. We're the ones that are obligated to educate the kids, and they can never build another school and just say there. You know, but we're the ones that are dealt the raw hand here. We've got to educate these children, period. And they can do whatever they feel like.
I feel like you may be a little bit short on the end of estimating here, because if our economy picks up, we're gonna boom.
We already are booming.
So,
In numbers.
in numbers. And when you look at these numbers here and what the growths are, even we're just coming out of a bad session, it's amazing how many come in per year, because we're getting a school of students come in per year. I mean, we could build, the increase is a school, and that's rough on the taxpayers.
Mr. Sanders?
The peak percentage for us was 5.6%. We had twice in the years I've worked, we had our first boom in the 90s. We peaked out at 4.5. The next one, it was 5.6. If we hit 5.5% of 43, right now 43,000 students, we've crossed 2,000 a year. I hope it doesn't. That was horrible to deal with. Y'all remember that. But as our base grows, that percentage.
Here's a few figures. Compared to 2006, average clothing prices are up 33% or a third, at $338,559, 9% higher than last year. Days on the market in 2016 were 48 days as compared to 59 before. National price for sold homes in 2016 increased 15.4% in the nation. And according to data from the Greater Nashville Realtors, 38,954 were sold in 2016 in Davison and surrounding counties. In 2015, 36,873. So sales were up 5.6%. Local real estate prices are expected to rise due to low inventory and strong job growth. Interest rates are expected to rise some, but it's expected to kind of be balanced with the demand on the market. And real estate market for 2015 versus 2016, Rutherford County closings are up 10%, and an average close prices increase 11% to $239,176. So all the indicators are saying that this is going to continue, and there's not an end.
Mr. Clarity, you're preaching to the choir.
Right.
All of these things most of us heard Monday morning at the Planning Commission.
Right.
And those of us that serve on the Planning Commission hear it every month. We've gone back up to where we're approaching 100 single-family dwellings a month.
Right.
Almost. We're not quite there yet, but we probably are well on our way. So those type of things that we've heard.
Right.
And we really do need to plan for it. But we also need to figure out how to pay for it as well. And that's the only question that I have right now is how can we prepare and plan to pay for it if we don't exactly know what you guys are asking. And if you guys are telling me that Rockville High School is your #1 priority, and then the other are a little bit up for discussion when it comes, then I can support that statement, I guess. But
Pettis, you had something?
Madam Chairman, if you'll excuse my rural philosophy, we about licked this cat to death. But I'm gonna say one other thing here. I think we've all agreed here about what's growing and what we've got here. But from that same community out there, we're talking about putting in a school. A little over 45 years ago, all the students from out there left that area and come in here to Riverdale. And at that time, we promised everything was better than sliced bread. Oakland and Riverdale were built. It would take care of all our worries and all our concerns. That community out there accepted it with open arms. You didn't have anything like what we have seen Saturday and past thing of people marching in the rural streets out there. But that's what they did, seeking a better education for their children. And we did. We thought that was the way everything should go and the way it should be. But now, we now have people that are flocking to this county. And as the commissioner here was showing me these figures right there, I said, we're doing this because evidently we're doing something right. And I think it's due to the fact that we do have an education system like this. And I think it's been mentioned this week of the number of students we have. When you compare our students, our numbers with the cities, that we're possibly the largest school system within this state when you look at it. I'm the one that's made this motion. And it was not a motion intended to shut any other schools out or whatever, but it was a motion made because this is what was presented to us tonight. And because I do think that we do need the high school because of the numbers we have here. And it's also something I'd like to see out there in my district, for sure. But I totally agree. It's got to be something we can pay for within this county. But to say that the day is coming that we'll never ever have to never have taxes, it's just not there anymore. I mean, I just don't see that. But I see where we do need this high school, and that's why I've made that motion.
Is the committee ready to vote?
I got one thing I want to say, the comment about appraisals being up 10%, that should theoretically equate to 10% more property taxes. As appraisals go up, bad news for property owners, but that'll bring in theoretically more money to the county that we can help pay for these schools with us.
Do you want to restate the motion for us?
Go ahead with letting the bids on Rockville High School and authorize $57 million.
is it 57 or?
We've already approved 1.9, so the balance that I have left was 57.
So the 2 million comes off the top. Okay, thank you.
Lock and key.
Nicole, right?
You should have got it, previous administration.
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Very good. Let me ask a question just for clarification so that everybody kind of knows what will happen from here. The same proposal goes to the Budget Committee. And if the Budget Committee approves it, it goes before the full County Commission to approve it. So there needs to be full, thorough discussion, especially at the County Commission level, for everyone that would vote for it. They need to know what's coming from a financial perspective. So we'll be ready to answer those questions. Lisa?
Yes.
Thank you.
I can guarantee it'll be discussed in great detail at budget. And Lisa will have some protection for us by then, as far as how we might break this up, and that would all depend on market driven and things like that.
Thank you.
What else you want to talk about?
We have one other, if y'all voted?
Yeah, we did, we voted.
Okay, good. The other thing that we had one other item in there, and just like you saying, look down the road where we're gonna be in 19 or 20. One of the issues that we have now is there are not very many tracts of land in Rutherford County now where developments are being built, where things are happening, that you can go in and find a place to build a school. I did hear Williamson County is talking about maybe trying to buy up enough land for a decade or so out. I'm not suggesting that at all, but I am suggesting that we're taking a look at the I-840 corridor, because we're seeing, and we give you some numbers tonight to support that, that we're seeing a lot of growth in that area. And one of the things is we would like to stay out of Musselburgh city limits here, because we need to include, we're looking at a 3-school complex. Why a 3-school complex? Parents love it, one. But number 2 is when we do utilities and roads and infrastructure, it is cheaper for us to put it in a 3-school complex than it is to put one school here, one school there, and do a road here and that there. So we have found some property that does that. It does sit outside of the city limits, again, because we really don't want to build another elementary school in the city limits. So anyway, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Mr. Carter, who has some additional details with a piece of property that we have located that has a limited window for us to exercise an option on. That's kind of where we are. We're looking down the road, not to build the school next year or something, but to be ready to move. Just like we bought Rock Vale ahead, and just like you purchased enough property at Whitworth Buchanan to build a high school there. You've been good about looking ahead so that we can go ahead when the time comes and do that building, and that's what this is about.
So you can see several, at least 4 pieces of land on this front page. July 17, July 17, July 17 for land authorization, and then down July 18. And if you look on the next page here, on page 2, you can see we have just blocked out. These are not especially pieces of land that we have located, but it just kind of shows you an area of where those 4 pieces of land would lay. And, we're constantly on the look to try to find property in those areas, since the board has given us the task to look for that property. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 840 corridor piece. And there was an article in the Daily News Journal on Sunday that talks about the 840 growth corridor. And I've enclosed that article in the back on the very last place so you can look at it, and there's some information in there that is outlined in yellow that you can read at your leisure. If we move on to the next page, the piece of property that we are interested in out there is located 2.75 to 3 miles off of the Williamson County line. If you look at it to the northeast, it is from Brown's Chapel, it's 3.25 miles, and from Blackman Complex is 4.5 miles. And then the next page is just an overhead view of what the piece of property looks like. And that number 2 there is the second in 5 pieces that we looked at as a board that I had located, plus there's several pieces that I had ruled out over the last year that wouldn't work.
How many acres are you talking about for
This
conflict?
is 110 acres that we're purchasing, and there's the developer is donating 5 acres. Then if you go to the next page, this is the layout of the campus. And you can see to the, you hold it like this and look at it, you can see to the left would be the entry, and that's also the end of Ocala Road, which is kind of a frontage road that was used to fill 840. And that road runs all along 840 there, almost up to Vaughn Road. And I think there's a borrow pit up there about halfway between the end of Ocala and Vaughn Road.
You can see it from the interstate.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a quarry out there.
Yeah. So if you'll notice that sketch, you have your stadiums, you have your ball field, you have your high school parking, you have the middle school playing fields and practice fields, you have 10 acres set aside for sanitary treatment, and we did do a precursory review of that, and it looks like there is enough soil on there to take care of 4,000 students plus staff. You got your stormwater management in a few places. And then the middle school and the elementary school. Now, since we don't have the design back on these schools, the footprint on those will be smaller when they actually go back on there, on the property.
Those will be 2 stories.
2 stories.
2 story instead of 1 story. Okay, if we go to the next page, Shane has worked up these numbers, so I'm going to let him explain the next 4 pages to you.
So the first page you see,
6.
Page 6.
6, yes. The first page you see is going to be proposed subdivisions that are in some state of flux inside the city limits and inside the county north of 840 and west of I-24. We identified this parcel and then worked out from there in a 3 and a 4 mile radius to give you an idea of how much growth potential was in that area. The total for those proposed subdivisions, and they could be under construction right now, or they could be, as Linwood is, kind of waiting for that final approval, but we know that there's a substantial amount of lots with that subdivision that could impact this area greatly. So you end up with 2689 as a total of proposed lots, then added to what we already have in existing, it's 5257. Now we calculate the number of students that live in that 3 mile radius and project that as a percentage, and then calculate it back out to what could be, and then we go from 1186, what we currently have K through 12 in those areas, and we end up with an additional 1,242, giving you a total of 2,428. And then on top of that, as you saw earlier, our growth for right now is 2.78%, and we usually use a 3% growth factor just for budgeting purposes. When you do that, you end up right at 2,500 in a 3 mile radius of that parcel of land.
What kind of time frame are you using to build out, are you projecting to build out these subdivisions?
We don't use a time frame, we use the total number of lots that could potentially be impacted.
Subdivision in my district, Liberty Station, Liberty Valley, was approved in 2002 for just under 800 houses. 15 years in, they're about 2/3 of the way built out.
True.
And so we're 15 years in, and they've still got 300 to go.
And-
You know, so you've got to have some.
And it's rather hard to, you know, we would have to know each builder and what the conditions are, the weather.
Market drives how
Yeah,
many
we're
houses.
speculating a lot of that. This is worst case scenario if it happened tomorrow. This is what you would end up with. Within a 4 mile radius of that parcel of land, you add a couple of more subdivisions, and After doing all those same, very similar calculations, you end up with almost twice as many at 4312, just in another mile. To take a look at, to give you a visual of what that looks like, you'll turn to the next page and you'll see where those subdivisions are placed in proximity to the one that we've chosen. And it gives you just a visual perspective of what's going on there.
One of those calculations has Linwood, which is at 15, over 1,500 subdivision, 1,500 lot subdivision, and the other one doesn't. So that's why those numbers are different on those two different calc pages. We know they're having difficulty getting the sewer out there because of the easement. And I talked with a person that knew the developer who is developing South Haven there, one of the guys. And he said that they had probably $10 million tied up in that place already, so he couldn't see them walking away from it. So they'll keep trying to pursue getting sewer, he thinks. Let me just go over a few things with you that I think these are good reasons for choosing this parcel. It has 10-inch water main available. The electricity is there and ready available. Gas is available. And we had a SEC to do a review of the site, and they believe there's enough dirt on it for the amount of step system we need. And testing has been approved by the board, but it's contingent upon approval by the commission before we can move on with the testing.
You mean we've got to approve buying it before you can test it?
Well, we got to prove that it will be funded if the tests are what we're looking for.
So the developer is not going to let you go in and test prior to us?
Well, we
They won't spend the money.
We're going to
Costs us
spend
$30,000-$40,000.
We're going to spend the money to check it. If it happens to fail, then we would not be responsible for purchasing.
Our county attorney writes the contracts that way based upon the property being usable, so that's always in there.
But you also, on yours, kudos to you guys, you didn't go out and spend the $30,000,
No.
or how much it is, what I read in the paper, I believe. If the commission was going to turn the site down, that'd be a waste of money.
Right. And also, the real estate, what committee is it, or property management, also we follow their rule to get everything checked out, like an appraisal and all of the tests and everything, environmental testing, and those types of things before we actually do the deal. And that's been a requirement of coming through the commission and the mayor's office for several years now. So we've always followed that. The site is level, and there's a picture that I put in there that has the topo with number 4. You can see how good a shape it's in by the distance apart of the topographic line.
Page 4.
Page 4, yes.
You don't find too many parcels out there.
It actually has some dirt on it. This one does. There's so many that I looked at are parked and.
During the 2010 flooding, we had out there off the shores and so on, we had an extreme amount of flooding and so on due to the guard system water actually coming back up from nowhere into
How far is this from Closter?
the property.
The subdivision Closter?
Now,
I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
there's egress onto Ocala, which has had partial improvements all the way out to shores and shores on out to Allenville Road. But we would have to, with the grading and expense, we think we would have some money to improve that from where we enter
I was thinking
onto
right
the
across the
site.
road every,
Plus, there's a commitment from the developer to
it's veterans.
continue that road down along the rest of the development that they're be putting in on the balance of the land that is with this parcel.
Is there another egress or ingress
Well,
other than the one?
There's an egress into the, at Day Clear Drive over there and stuff into that area. Now, we run into an issue with that, just like we did at Stewart Creek on Foxland, with people not wanting us to enter into their subdivision.
Entire neighborhood street is not built for that kind of
Right.
traffic.
Exactly.
And those people that buy those houses expecting 4,000 students coming from.
Right, every day, 2 times a day.
I know it's not far off the
So,
interstate.
So how
so,
far does this parcel go? You say the developer is committed to extend, did I understand right? Basically extending Ocala.
as he develops it out,
How far does that go?
that will, the entire length across there is 1 3/4 miles from Ocala to the end of Vaughn Road. When he gets it built to the end of the development, it will be another, I think, 6/10 of a mile from there to the Vaughn.
Does Vaughn Road run into the property line, or does it stop in front of the Talbert properties?
It stops shy. It would have to be a,
I was out there today and I measured it on the interstate, and it's, you know, and I may be jumping ahead, but I'm very, very concerned about the access. 4,000 plus students out there. I mean, we can talk about if it's the right location or not, but Ocala Road was an access road. It's not built to any standards. Going through that subdivision, in my opinion, is not a viable option. That neighborhood's not built to handle that kind of traffic. And the only way I'm gonna seriously consider this is if I see a way to connect to Vaughn Road or something like that, give another way in and out. You'll be 2.5 miles, a little 2 miles from Veterans. That would become your main access, in my opinion, for all the people out there from that half anyway. And the only way that I'm personally gonna support this is if I see a way to connect back over there to Vaughn Road. I may have jumped ahead of what you were saying.
well,
And then 102 is not that great a road, is it?
No, it's not, and even if you go through the subdivision, you come out on Burton Knob's a nightmare in itself. You know, we can't be dumping thousands of students out on Burton Knob. We've got to have a way in and out. But I'm spending $100 million back here, plus time we get around the school and all. We want to make sure we got a way to get in and out and don't make a problem.
That's when we got into the same situation with Stewart's Creek, and, you know, I insisted in the job I had then with EMA, we wrote you a letter and so on, while we haven't opened up those accesses are available at Foxland and are available at Gossett, because at points in time, due to weather conditions, without those accesses, we're down to one ingress and egress, and that's off of Poplarwood, and that's not a very good one, because that's just basically a 20-foot wagon road. And the city's done nothing to upgrade that in the 10 years since. And so we cannot, I don't see having said 4,000 students there, only one way to get them in and out. So it's, I mean, property looks great, but the ingress and egress looks very poor. I mean, maybe we need to be talking to some other people about ingress and egress and buying some more additional property, easements or something.
well, as Will mentioned, we are looking at some out onto Burnt Knob Road, although Burnt Knob is not a great road with all of the quarry traffic and everything.
You can dump on the veterans.
Right.
Improve to Vaughn the veterans.
Right.
That would tip the scales for me, to where you can get those students in and out, buses in and out. You're talking thousands of trips a day between employees, buses, and everything else coming and going out of the 3-school site. And I cannot sit here and vote to put them either through that subdivision or on Ocala Road. One wreck on Ocala Road that's shut down. Those kids are trapped almost going out that little substreet back there. I think we need to do some more homework and figure out a projection and stuff. And I want a commitment that there would be a road in place before we ever got ready to build a school. And if we need to participate in that road, so be it. But I'm not ready to build that road and give it to the developer.
Well, I don't see it as a problem that can't be overcome. I mean, I'll have to research it and come back, but,
Does the seller of this tract own all the way back to the back of the Talberts?
I think it does go pretty much back here.
All the way to the back of what?
Dr. Talbert's property.
Oh, no, we're not even close to his property.
He said they're going all the way down
Not
to
us.
Talbot.
I'm asking, is the farm, the remaining land,
It's only 611 acres in this piece that they're buying 110
did they own the quarry?
acres from.
Do they have some more under contract?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. I mean, I'll research it. I don't know the answer.
I hate to cut you off, but I think that's some answers we're gonna need. And I would encourage you to come back next month and research the access from another way, at least in my opinion. I'm one member of a 7-member committee, but
Where's the city limits?
batteries.
Where is it? No, where's Smyrna?
Smyrna's up there at, what you call it, Linwood.
Stops at Independent Hill. They're on
Right there at
Road.
They brought it down the Albertville Road to
They do not,
Independent Hill.
they
and
only annex the
a
roadway,
portion of
3
it.
miles of roadway.
Point it out to
It
me.
would be right here. You're coming around 840, and here comes 102 up through here.
Where is it?
It's right in here. Yeah, Burnt Knob
Right
comes
here,
off across here.
Yes, sir.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Change it if you want to.
If they annex 3 miles of roadway, they still can't do the new annexation laws. They cannot annex all those people on each side
No,
without those people
they
agreeing.
did not.
Right.
You know,
Right. This is 102. Here is the, here's 840 right here. Here's 840 coming around. There's 24. Here's 840. Here's 102 coming up through here. This road, here's Burnt Knob is coming right through here. So this road coming right in through here is the one that he's going to
Where's the city limits?
gas line, TV
Okay,
line,
very
road,
good.
you can just cross
And
under the road.
the city's already committed to, Smyrna's already committed to providing the utilities to this? It's Smyrna,
No,
right?
it's out there. We already have, because the subdivisions are gas and water, and then we're doing the step system, see, for the city.
Jeff, the developer is responsible for bringing that sewer. And the town of Smyrna hadn't heard anything from the developer in months.
Okay. This Amaville Road is, well, I've driven Amaville Road a lot.
I live off of it.
And I haven't been on it a tremendous amount in the last few years, but it's kind of scary the way that thing, I can't remember which one of these subdivisions it was. Maybe you remember, Joe, we approved right there on one of those sharp turns. Which one was it?
That is,
Is it South Haven?
it's Clear Creek, I believe.
Clear Creek. That's the type of thing that, I'm not sure that it's really good planning, but we're approving a bunch of developments out there, and that road scares me, it really does. But I know you gotta build high schools and school complexes someplace, but that Amaville Road just kind of scares me a little bit. But I kind of like the thought of it being kind of the outskirts of the county like this, instead of closer to town. We're putting a lot of high schools really, really close together. And my concern is not now, or even 10 years from now, or even 20 years from now. What about 30 years from now? Where are all these kids coming from? 30 years from now, is this part of the county going to be growing? And this part of the county, they don't have any more kids because they're all grown and people are still living in those houses, but they're not kids there. All of those kind of things just confuse the crap out of me. And Aaron says, we're looking at this and we're looking at that, and are we looking at 30 years from now? Are we still going to have enough people all on this end of the county to supply those schools with? So I don't know. I do like the fact, Will, that it's way out.
Well, I got an argument to that. But I wasn't even gonna go there, but since you brought this up. People in my district and my neighborhood the elementary kids go to Wilson Elementary.
Yeah.
There are kids driving 10, 11 miles that way to drop off their kids at school. They come back, go right back past their house, go into Murfreesboro, to go to 840, to go to 24, to go to work. Then at night, they drive all the way back past their house, 11 miles, and come back. You're creating traffic.
Yeah.
You're forcing these people to drive away from Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the majority of these people are going to be coming to 24, are going to be coming to Murfreesboro. Now, there will be a lot of people that are going to like a school right there, those subdivisions on the county line, cheaper houses. They're going to live there, drop off the kids, and go to Franklin. Now, if we want to create that, that's a whole different argument. We're going to educate the kids, and they're going to work in Franklin, and probably do their shopping in Franklin, and spend their tax dollars in Franklin. But I've got a bit of a problem, but I went out there today, and I measured it, and if you go off Vaughn Road, you're not going around the world to get there. You're cutting 5 miles off their drive. And I can tolerate that personally for the people that live on the Veterans Parkway corridor and all, because those kids are going to be going to that school, a lot of them are, and stuff. So that's why I said, if you can show me a feasible access from veterans, a continuation of Vaughn or something like that, then I'm going to look at this a lot more open-minded. But I do have a problem with putting the school. That's another problem. But I watch those kids. My sister-in-law does it every day. She drives the kids off and comes all the way back through. And I think, well, Wilson Elementary does not have enough kids around it to fill it up. There are kids coming from Leanna and Sulphur Springs Road all the way to Thompson Lane. And those kids around, the people that live around Wilson Elementary, most of them work in Murfreesboro anyway. They're dropping off their kids and driving to Murfreesboro. That school should have been Sulphur Springs or somewhere like that, in my opinion, and those people would have caught it on their way into town. But
Maybe the
that's the argument for being farther out of town.
Maybe the cutoff road development.
Yeah.
That one that's, Ken will.
It'll finally fill it up, and those kids in the Leanna area have to go somewhere else.
Actually, that 840 corridor also mentions the north part of 842. If you look at that article Sunday, which was at the 231 side.
There's some farms that sold recently out there, and 5 more years Wilson will be filled up within its own neighborhood, more than likely. And then you've got to figure out what to do with it that's closer into town.
Yeah, that's the north, the north end there by Wilson, not Wilson, but
Off Jefferson Pike up now,
Yeah,
several
right down.
farms
Yeah.
sold lately.
I think Mayor had something to add.
Well, I just want to make a few comments and I want to ask a question or two. The data that Shaney's presented here, I mean, there's 2 different pieces of it. And I'm just going to look at the one that doesn't have Linwood included in it. And within 4 miles, when all of these subdivisions are built out, 964 schools added with a 3% growth in that 1 year, of course. And that's not going to happen in 1 year or 2 or even 3. So just assume it happens in 5 years or more. So that's still no real growth in the number of students out there in a 4-mile radius. Secondly, I want to ask a question or two. Have you guys talked to any independent person of an appraisal nature? Or have you looked at comparable sales out there in the neighborhood to get a reasonable guesstimate on the whether this value that's being offered is reasonable?
we have not, but normally what we have done is waited until we were, approved to go out, and then if it did not come up, then the sale would not take place because it would be contingent on being worth what it is and meeting the requirement of the property management.
Okay, so that your offer would be contingent on it appraising.
Right.
And is this appraiser at your choice or their choice, or how do you do that?
It would be our choice.
Okay, one comparable I'll just quote, the 262 acres on South Haven. What's recorded is less than $3 million for 260 acres, which is about $11,000, $12,000 an acre.
The price on this is 3 times that.
It's $43,181, I calculated it out, which is almost 4 times what the county paid the earlier estate for Stewart's Creek properties. At the time when it was approaching the bubble, which we're back close to that now. So if we're just now getting back, it seems like this is quite high.
It's very high. The city just bought for a park, Veterans, Blackman Road, and Vaughn Road in Burnt Knob, a commercial piece of property for $40,000 an acre. And it's right there. I mean, that's very high-profile property. I mean, it's right at the interchange. I think we need to work on the price, but that's a whole, we ain't even gone there yet. So.
So what would y'all like to see if we bring this back?
Multiple access.
Yeah, somewhere besides Burnt Knob. Burnt Knob's a good third point.
That big long road down here.
That's where the people are going to come off.
It's a 100-year project. Schools last at least 75, you know. $100 million, something that's for a long, long time. We want to make sure we get this right.
Would you like to see an appraisal on the property?
I think probably wise. I mean, this is so far out of norm out there. I mean, we know that property out there. Many of us do that, have lived in that neighborhood forever. It's hard to develop property. Very, very hard. Very hard.
Is there anything else?
So we'd like them to do multi-access and give us an estimated appraisal value. Is there anything else you'd like to see on this particular proposed location?
I would hopefully get a commitment from the developer or on the multi-access on involvement, because we don't want to go in and build that road and give it over to someone. It's going to change the world out there if that road gets put in.
Right.
And they could give us the property, in my opinion, and we build those schools and build that road, they'd come out ahead. So I'm looking for participation on that road instead of the county footing the bill and giving it to them.
Anything else?
Well, I would say if we have developers or somebody watching us on TV tonight, they know we're looking somewhere around 840, and you're interested in participating and helping your county, and let us know.
We're going to make somebody rich, because schools drive subdivisions. And all of a sudden those houses and lots become golden if we've got a school site right there next door where the kids can walk to all three schools and stuff. So somebody ought to think about that when they're adjusting the price of their property.
I've been told that when we sold the property, what I thought was a very reasonable price, for Stewart's Creek Schools, that we just did just that. And I noticed that the 90 acres above my house recently sold for $1.5 million. It sold in 1960 for $6,500. So, you know, it's adjoining it's right there at the schools. It's, so, you know, it's driven up the values of what Will's saying is very true. If we build the schools, then we're going to drive up the value of the property around that for whoever owns it.
Okay. So we don't need a motion on this. We'll just table it as a business item for next month. It'll come back as old business. Okay. Do we have anything else for this committee?
That's it.
We stand adjourned. Very good.
Thanks, Jim.